The flash forward scene of Boruto has been foreshadowing some major twists and turns that no one is paying attention to. While the ongoing events in the story have made this scene really confusing, we can't deny the fact that Shinjus will have some involvement in the shinobi massacre as well as the destruction of Konoha. Kawaki, who's seen as the ultimate enemy of ninjas here, must have been brainwashed by the Ten Tails to do so. The logic and reasoning behind this possibility is really interesting. It will ultimately take us to an Otsutsukis versus Shinju type of scenario where Boruto might have to stand with his own kind, so stay tuned to find out how we get there. Firstly, the Shinjus were introduced as an evolved form of the Ten Tails, a species that got exploited by the Otsutsukis for millions of years just for the sake of evolution. The Ten Tails has the quality to contain the chakra of every person on a planet, including the dead ones. Otsutsukis had somehow figured this out, and they even knew if this creature ate someone from their creed, it evolved into a divine tree bearing a chakra fruit. The one who consumed the fruit was blessed with the chakra of every person that ever lived on that planet, and the sacrificed Otsutsukis could come back to life with the karma. However, what no one could imagine was the brainless Ten Tails gaining consciousness and becoming one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Now that they can take revenge from the entire Otsutsuki clan just cause they have awakened enormous powers alongside self-awareness, this is where Kawaki comes into play. From a logical standpoint, the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine, and same can be the case with Shinjus and Kawaki. Both of them have issues with the Otsutsukis and want to eradicate the clan from the roots. The Shinjus can use Kawaki as the frontman against the Celestial clan, but what are the odds of such occurrence? You could argue with me by saying Jura revealed his will of devouring Naruto, Kawaki's most precious person, so there is no way he will form an alliance with them. But what if I told you Naruto is the main reason for Kawaki to obey the Shinjus and follow their orders? You can see this Daikokuten cube, which is similar to the one Ishiki used at the Shinju's place, which means they could have access to Kawaki's other dimension. Another thing is that Jura was aware about the Senringan, meaning they know about the Shinjutsus of Otsutsuki's as well. Well, it makes sense because they evolved from a species which led to the creation of such powers at first place. And if they can pull over to the place where Kawaki has kept Naruto, then some tragic roller coaster is on its way for the Red Karma user. The character of Kawaki is basically a presentation of how ego drives someone crazy. He literally thought about all sorts of scenarios when Boruto returned, including the possibility of a spy in Konoha's sensory division. All this paranoia that he's going through was fired by a single desire that he couldn't extinguish. It was to protect the person who showed him unconditional love and a new way to live life. The influence of Kawaki on Naruto was so deep that he ended up doing the most ridiculous things, like faking the Hokage's death and blaming Boruto for it, even though he knows Naruto will abandon him once he gets to know the truth. But this didn't stop him from going out of his way to kill the Otsutsuki, who literally doesn't even pose a threat to Naruto, mainly because Momoshiki is under control and Boruto won't kill his father. So the only reason Boruto wants the son of Naruto dead is the hypothetical possibility of the monster taking the control of his body. Now imagine a real scenario where the enemy invades his Daikokuten dimension and threatens to take the life of the Hokage. No matter, Kawaki will go all out against him, but he will still remain helpless. So what's the best way to protect the life of your most precious person when you're fighting someone who's way above your league? Well, judging by what Kawaki did back in the Code arc, it must be to surrender. While he was lucky enough to get his karma back and completely violate code, luck doesn't work when your preparation doesn't meet the opportunities. Jura knows about every Shinjutsu used by Kawaki, and his combat experience must be better than him as well. The only thing that Kawaki can do to protect Lord 7th in this scenario is to give up and follow the will of Jura. Another reason for such scenario to take place is the claim made by Ishiki, which says destiny is pre-written by genes. I have already explained Jura's Ishiki connection in this video, but here's a recap for those who haven't watched it. Basically, the Ten Tails voluntarily chose the avatar of Ishiki cause he was the strongest person to walk on the planet. He was able to do so with his remnant chakra, or it could be that his avatar is a tribute to Jigen, who raised him for most of his lifetime. Both scenarios hint at a genetic connection that Jura shares with Ishiki, and coincidentally Kawaki has the DNA of the same being too. This makes their fateful meeting way more impactful, confirming that they were always predestined to encounter each other in the signature realm of Ishiki. Now here comes the part which portrayed Kawaki as the bad guy in the beginning of the story. The Shinju could ask him to betray the shinobis and help him to turn all of them into trees, just so he could expand his race limitlessly. The reasoning of Jura must be to outnumber the Otsutsukis in order to avenge the cruelty that they have been inflicting on the Ten Tails. Kawaki might hesitate at first, but since it's the only way to save Naruto, he would have to follow the Shinju. However, Jura could tell him that all the humans will return to their normal form once their Ten Tails avatar will devour an Otsutsuki. This would give a fresh breeze to Kawaki, and he would happily blindly follow his plans of destroying the Otsutsukis clan. Before moving forward to understand how the climax of Boruto will be Otsutsukis versus Shinjus, which might even involve Shibai the Otsutsuki god, let me ask you guys a thought-provoking question. What's supposed to happen when a Shinju absorbs their human target? We know by consuming Kawaki or Boruto, they will evolve into some final form. However, the form that they will attain by devouring the humans is an interesting mystery. Well, I believe this personal instinct of Shinjus will only empower their alliance with Kawaki, alongside marking the beginning of the Otsutsuki war. The reason for me to believe so are the broken cyborgs Aida and Daemon. They have the power of Senringan, omnipotence and reflection, which scales them above most of the characters. We know Bug was the closest to them at Boro's place, and maybe that's why his Shinju wants to eat Aida. Devouring Aida would mean he would gain her abilities as well, making him the most broken Shinju of them all. I always wondered how Kishimoto would remove both of them from the plot and what they might be doing in the flash forward scene. So if by chance both of them get eaten by Shinjus, it will grant the Tenders a very strong edge against the Otsutsuki's. The power of Senringan would make them trace their colonies around the universe, and they can go there to kill all of them, leaving Kawaki behind to create an army of their own kind. This explains where they are during the events of the flash forward and why Boruto's Jogan has awakened. It's the only hope for the Otsutsuki's to deal with Shinjus, and this dynamic in the story would spice up everything. Boruto having to protect the shinobis as well as the celestial race that he belongs to is something worth looking forward to. Imagine the Shinjus destroying most of the Otsutsuki clan, and then Boruto appears to remind them that he's still an Otsutsuki. Hit the sub button if you also think something like that is worth happening. There are some more analogies between the cyborg siblings and Shinjus, which hint at them getting devoured very soon. The symbol of Aida's Senringan has been derived from the moonstar crest of the Chiba clan. This spiritual emblem is associated with Myoken, a Japanese deity. Now take a look at the Chiba shrine where this entity gets worshipped. Here you can see another symbol with the moonstar crest, which looks similar to the one depicted on the Shinju's outfit. This symbol is known as the Kuyo crest, and since it's found at the worship place of Myoken, there is a high chance for a possible connection between Aida and Shinju. What's more interesting is that the flag of Chiba clan looks way too similar to the symbol on Daemon's outfit. So all three of them representing a certain symbol of the Myoken faith clearly means that they will impact each other's destiny in some way. The thing about cyborg siblings which could make them a jackpot for the Shinjus are their Otsutsuki god genetics. The one who devours them will automatically gain the godly abilities of Shibai Otsutsuki, and the reason I believe this is what Kishimoto has planned has something to do with the Myoken faith itself. Basically, there is a Myoken concept called Sonjo Hoshin, meaning inheriting Buddha's nature. It implies that everyone has the potential to become Buddha themselves and escaping the cycle of death and reincarnation. I think this concept will soon reflect in Boruto's story, when the bug Shinju will devour Aida to awaken the enlightenment and universal essence of Shibai Otsutsuki, further explaining why Kishimoto foreshadowed their relatedness at first place. I even said in my Dragon Ball reference video that how there are tons of plot points from DBZ being implemented in Boruto's story, and I was certain for Code to absorb one of the cyborgs to enter his final form, just like how Cell absorbed the androids. But fate turned hard for Code as he remained the king of taking L's, leaving the possibility of this incident onto the hands of the new enemies. The awakening of Shinjutsu and godly powers by Shinju will definitely raise the bar to a whole new level for Boruto, but it will also provide a powerful edge to their faithful ally Kawaki. Speaking of Kawaki, I low-key feel like his future outfit makes him look like a Japanese priest, reflecting his devotion to the Shinjus, all thanks to his twisted obsession over Naruto. One thing is clear, that he hasn't turned his back on the Hokage, cause he does not call him out by name in the prologue scene. He pays respect to him by referring to him as Nana Daime or the Seventh. Jura calls out Naruto by name, so if he was literally controlling Kawaki, then he wouldn't have referred to him as Nana Daime. Now there is a certain narrative in the Shinju awakening arc of the story which has been used in the plot before. I'm talking about love. The will of Shinjus to devour the person whom their human counterpart loved the most is a really interesting dynamic. While many people say Bug was infatuated with Aida's charm, that's why his Shinju targets her, I don't think that's the case for him. The Shinju of Bug seems like a slacky person to me, who didn't bother to seek his instinct to find his target. He decided to go after Aida only because he caught her spying at them with Senringan. Also, there was literally no person whom he admired too much as a human, so there is a slightly less chance for him to have an instinctive target. The reason I believe the other Shinjus are going after the people whom their counterpart loved the most will also explain why Aida and probably Daemon would get devoured by the Shinju. Last time I mentioned how Jura has no chance of redemption just because he's made from the chakra of Ishiki or Tsutsuki, a destructive monster. The only two Shinjus who get redeemed are Matsuri and Hidari, and here is why. They both have reflected the human side of their sentiments in the last chapter. Matsuri talks about how she feels the strong emotions of Inoshikacho and Konohamaru towards her, and Hidari can be seen questioning his perplexing existence. These feelings that drive them to the person they love the most as humans could make them turn a new leaf. As for the Shinju bug, he's not bounded by any such sentimental connection from his past life, so it's less likely for him to back off from their original plan. Same goes for Jura, who was made from the genetics of an entity who doesn't understand love, and it's only the essence of Kawaki which is motivating him to consume Naruto. The point is that he seems to know more about the evolution as well as their existence and purpose than his other counterparts. I can see him making the most logical decision when it comes to dealing with Kawaki or even the Otsutsuki clan. Maybe that's how he will manipulate Kawaki into forming the formidable alliance. However, the possibility of Hidari and Matsuri becoming a hurdle for him and Bug is still there. Sarada could relight the heart of her father's clone by providing him a more sensible purpose than to devour Otsutsukis and someone they loved as a human. She has done it before with Sasuke, only to rescue Boruto from Konoha. And now when she will be facing her dad after all these years, that too in an evil avatar, I guess there is only one element which can help Team Konohamaru and Sarada to handle their respective enemies, the Talk no Jutsu. That's right, the only way for the weak characters to gain an edge over the overpowered foes is something that Naruto has used a lot in the past. However, their way of doing it will be a bit different, yet more impactful than the original Talk no Jutsu. Before I explain that, please hit the sub button if you haven't already to not miss any of my future uploads. My next video will solely focus on Sarada and Hidari, so subscribe right now to not miss that. I will also be taking theories from the comments for that video, so don't forget to drop the best theories down below. Talk no Jutsu is basically Naruto's superpower of words. He wins over his opponents with empathy, understanding, and a shared belief in people's good hearts. He listens to their story and offers them a chance for change and redemption. But how likely is it for the same formula to work against the Shinjus? The people that Naruto used to deal with had done something wrong at some point in their life, and a mental therapy in the form of the Talk no Jutsu worked well for most of them. However, these new villains were born just a while ago and haven't taken any such demonizing steps. They are completely neutral as well as a slave to their instincts. So in order to get them on the right path, they need to be realized the truth. The truth that they are just a temporary existence in this world who will vanish once their source humans will be freed from the trees. This realization of their terminal life would either make or break their mental resilience. So a Talk no Jutsu type of therapy where they are given an even greater purpose than their instinctive desires could lead to their redemption. It can be anything from protecting the weak or preventing any sort of destruction from the hands of their counterparts. There is even a possibility that Jura is the prime manifestation of the Jubi, which means he is literally the boss of other Shinjus. By having dominance over his other counterparts, he could be controlling their consciousness somehow, which is why they all want to target a human at first place. But just like how Ishiki did not last long in the story, is Jura destined to follow a similar path? What's interesting about the Shinju gang is that all of them are a part of a collective consciousness which stems from the Ten Tails. This means they are one in a way. When Ishiki got betrayed and later tricked by Kawaki, which led to his death, the Red Karma user was already an 80% Otsutsuki by then, that too with the DNA of Ishiki himself. It shows that how the most formidable Otsutsuki got betrayed by someone sharing his own DNA. Now something similar might go down in the fate of Jura if Matsuri and Hidari end up betraying him. The human side of these Shinjus could provide them some logical reasoning which would break them out from this instinct fallacy. Now even though there is a really good chance for Hidari and Matsuri to turn a new leaf, there is one big problem which reduces the chances of their redemption to a huge degree: the possibility and fear of death. The Shinjus will soon realize that if they surrender to the goodwill of shinobis, then their source human beings would get free from their trees. This means they will need to follow their instincts on the path of destruction, and by being too emotional they could lose their lives and eccentric existence altogether. Finally, let's talk about how the Otsutsuki vs Shinju conflict could be the climax of Boruto's story. Kishimoto wanted to cover up the story of Boruto under 30 volumes, fulfilling the whole Naruto franchise in a total of 100 volumes. With the recent completion of the first volume of Two Blue Vortex, we are most likely left with 9 volumes till the end of Boruto. Each volume has a total of 4 chapters, so here is how I believe things are bound to end up. Well, take this prediction with a grain of salt, and now let's move on to discuss some really solid hints. Something was said by Jura that single-handedly proved a lot of theories regarding the missing Otsutsukis. It seems like the destroyed panel duo were actually Shibai Otsutsuki and his pair. The reason I think so is because Jura identified the Senringan at first glance as if he was familiar with it. This means he must have seen someone using it when he was in his 10th Ten-Tails form, which only indicate the missing Otsutsukis being the ones to utilize it. As long as Amado is not lying about either being modified with the remains of Shibai only, it's pretty clear that he had paid a visit to the planet years before Kaguya and Ishiki. So what does this prove? Well, think about when does an Otsutsuki use the Senringan? It's either to look around anywhere in the universe or to peek into the past. For some reasons, Shibai Otsutsuki must have used the Senringan in front of this Ten-Tails. The two best possibilities could be either him looking at who else had landed on this planet, or maybe just to see what his pair or familiar Otsutsukis are doing. I think Shibai Otsutsukis had brought this Ten-Tails seedling in this dimension, and it's during his journey when he saw him using the Senringan and other abilities. The reason to believe this can be found in the statement of Boruto's Toad, who said in chapter 4 that Ko doesn't have what it takes to move the Ten-Tails. This means it's not impossible to move a Ten-Tails from one place to another, and since Shibai was an Otsutsuki god, he could have done that effortlessly. So now that we have a rough idea of the Ten-Tails origins, let's understand the complicated side of the story's climax. The Otsutsukis versus Shinju's twist in the story is not a one-way thing to start with. The Ten-Tails possess a strong hatred towards the Otsutsukis. The different type of illusion that they underwent has led to the Otsutsuki clan getting endangered for the very first time. However, I think it was pre-planned from the beginning for these creatures to rival the celestial monsters. Every prophecy about Boruto that we heard from Toneri talks about the darkness, a fight with destiny, and Jogen being the star of hope. Now, even though it hasn't appeared in the manga yet, the awakening of Shinju has provided us some hints for the darkness that Toneri has mentioned. I believe when Aida and Daemon will be removed from the plot and Kawaki will submit to the Shinjus, it will mark the beginning of the time that has been predicted by Toneri. The Shinjus are about to bring destruction and Boruto is supposed to get rid of it with his Jogen. It was once said by Toneri that soon the gods will land upon this planet, and while at first it sounded like a reference to the other Otsutsukis, the introduction of Otsutsuki gods changed the whole narrative of this statement. I believe entities like Shibai Otsutsuki who have entered godhood are really respected in their clan, not only because they are too powerful, but also because their god title puts them in a totally different league than other Otsutsukis. I think Kishimoto used the concept of gods on purpose, instead of kings or something like that for Otsutsuki evolution. In real life, God is the source of hope for all the believers, and whenever something goes wrong in a person's life, he prays to God. Maybe the time when Boruto will lose his final pillars of hope like Kashin Koji and Konoha, only an Otsutsuki god shall be able to get him out of the dark circumstances. And as there have been a lot of hints indicating his connection to Shibai, it seems like Toneri's prophecy of the Jogen and the return of gods are indeed connected. Boruto, upon losing every drop of hope in his heart, will have to put faith in the only entity who could change his destiny. The belief in Shibai Otsutsuki will awaken the Jogen in his right eye, which must be enough for him to beat his fate. Kishimoto will most likely emphasize the importance of faith in a person's life and how belief in a higher power can create solutions out of thin air. Every time Boruto messed up till now, someone came to his rescue to prevent the worst from happening. The time when the monster took Sasuke's eye, Kawaki burned his body with chakra flames to awaken him. When the threat of Momoshiki arose in front of Naruto and Code, Kawaki used his powers to kill him. Sarada sent her father to his rescue after omnipotence, and Kashin Koji became his mentor after losing Sasuke. But there will soon come a time when there won't be anyone to lend a helping hand to Boruto. The shinobi age is destined to collapse, and that moment shall mark the return of Shibai Otsutsuki to the story. It would also explain why Boruto's horn looked similar to him, and the resemblance between Shibai's wrath and Uzuhiko. It could be that Otsutsuki gods are able to write the destiny of mortals who are connected through chakra like humans, but since Shinjus and Otsutsukis are immune from omnipotence, they will always remain out of their control. Like Jura said to Boruto that he cannot escape his destiny, and the way he said this, it felt like he was the one who wrote his fate. While it's not completely the case, it's pretty evident that Shinjus and Otsutsukis are dominant to humans, and just because Boruto exceptionally turned into a celestial creature, they still see him as an inferior. So to break out of this inferiority curse, Boruto will be given a power which is quoted as the Star of Hope. The reason for Shibai to do so must be to control people who are immune from omnipotence. He seems to have changed the memories of humanity before for some reasons, but just because the Shinjus are a huge threat to his clan, he will need to get rid of them in one way or another. So Boruto using the godly eye to destroy Kawaki, the puppet of Shinjus, followed by protecting his clan from the Ten-Tails, is a plausible scenario. Further, Shibai having to lend Boruto his power just to defeat the new enemies only mean that they are actually a really big deal. Imagine if they are able to use the claw marks to create more of their kind, and even the Grimes, who could literally end the age of shinobis by turning everyone into chakra trees. So who exactly will win this climax of Otsutsukis versus Shinjus? Is it going to be the Otsutsukis who have been exploiting the Ten Tails for millions of years, or the Shinjus who are finally smart enough to take revenge by becoming predators? Well, going by the plot armor, it must be the Otsutsukis, but this doesn't justify how much the Ten Tails has suffered all these years. The hate inside these creatures is only a manifestation of what they have went through in the past. Code used his claw marks to create Grimes out of the Ten Tails, and then used these powerful rods to suppress it. The Otsutsukis also tamed them and turned them into Divine Tree by feeding them a living being just to obtain the chakra fruit. This validates the actions of Shinjus. However, it's too early for us to put all of them in a negative limelight. There is still hope for Matsuri and Hidari to switch sides, but the feat that Bug and Jura will attain by eating Aida and partnering with Kawaki is too menacing. Aida could literally take them on par with Shibai due to her godly DNA, which means we could be seeing a new form of Boruto that he shall be using to defeat the overpowered Shinjus. I will bring a full video on this possibility very soon, so subscribe to not miss it and check out these videos for more amazing stuff. I will see you next time.